Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kisma. I'm Kisma and welcome to our episode number 132. And today's topic is rather juicy, possibly controversial, but I guarantee by the end, you'll have a new sense of what is most important to you. Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kisma, bringing you ancient wisdom for modern day success so that you can have the mindset to get your life and business set.
As always, thank you for tuning in. And if you're new to the podcast, take a quick second to hit the subscribe button in iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. If you want to get the inside info for this and every episode, as well as some free gifts, go to illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. And now let's dive in to get your mindset for your life and business set.
Well, hello there, Nick.
Hello there, Kisma.
What's going on?
Well, getting back in the groove.
Getting back in the groove because...
You know, we did some traveling. You were traveling more than I was. And then it was just this past weekend. Wow, it already seems like a while ago. But just this past weekend, we had our Full Potential retreat up in northern Michigan.
Netawanda Inn.
It was pretty awesome.
It was a blast,
yeah,
right?
It was really
we had so much fun. Everyone who attended was amazing.
Big shout out to everybody.
Everybody, you guys, miss you so much.
And the inn itself, the Netawanda Inn, is just amazing. I feel like maybe I shouldn't be saying the name. Like I want her to be successful at the inn, but I also want to keep it like a really nice
It doesn't matter. We're booked for next year anyways. We have the weekend. If you guys want to join, it's already halfway sold out. So email us.
Yeah, email us soon. But it was just awesome. It was really wonderful to dive in deep with people in a setting like that. And what I really like most, I think, about that particular event is that it is a beautiful combination of retreat and deep dive into self.
It truly is. Yeah. I think we have managed that balance because retreats, there needs to be space, a little winery trips, fun, friendships. Yeah, I know we wouldn't feel like we gave it our all if people didn't walk away with a new perspective on life and prosperity and full potential and the whole thing.
Yeah, I fully agree. So that was awesome. And, spending some time with my family and friends and then kind of getting back in the groove here. So
what about your new best friend that you made at the retreat?
Oh, Marco.
Marco the cat. All right. Just FYI, everyone, Marco the cat really was the hit.
He really was.
Yeah.
And he was amazing.
2-year-old cat.
Yeah, he's like a tan cat. He's a young guy, but certainly an old soul.
Yeah, yeah.
And kind of reminded me of Miles.
Yeah.
And I just fell in love with that cat.
I know. You'd cuddle him. So pictures on the show notes, everyone, illuminationacademy.net/INK132. Photos of Nick cuddling Marco.
It was my happy place. It was truly my happy place. But speaking of the folks who showed up there, it ties in directly to what we're going to talk about today.
Oh, it so does.
There's a word that's going to come up throughout this episode today that may make some people uncomfortable. And we are going to unpack that and hopefully put it in a new context for you so that it makes a little bit more sense. But what I want to say is that it's a mark of truly successful people in that they took time out of their lives and truly like 4 days out of their life. That's not an easy thing for a lot of people to do, but they took that time out to devote to themselves.
Right.
And sure, we had fun and it was a beautiful place and all these great things. But at the end of the day, they were willing to invest those 4 days for themselves.
Exactly.
To get to the other side of whatever it was that they showed up with. And everybody always seems to show up with different things. They've got something that they really need to solve.
Right.
And, we've got some people that have been coming pretty much every year for 10 years. And it's always something new. And there's always another shore and another level. And they show up ready to solve that. But they invest the time in order to do that.
It's not just time. It's energy. It's money. It's the emotional, it's everything. And so with that investment, there's other things that are given up.
Given up. Another word for that? Sacrifice.
Oh,
Sacrifice.
It is an interesting word. What do you guys think about this word, sacrifice?
Well, remember a few episodes ago, and I was joking around. It's like the sacrificial law of manifestation, and I was joking about that.
Yes. Did you get an email?
Well, here we are. Because we are talking about sacrifice, right? And it's like what you give up. And it has some really weird connotations. So I want to take a few moments and just dispel some of that and put it in a context that's useful.
Right.
And that's not so burdened with all this weird stuff. Like you're going to have to, sacrifice an animal, or give up a limb or something like that. But
your house, your home.
Yeah. Or who knows what, your pleasure and joy in life. I think a lot of times sacrifice gets attached to all the wrong things.
It truly does.
And sure, in the olden days, the way olden days, people were really confused about how nature worked and the laws worked. And they really believed that in giving up, sacrificing animals, that would somehow appease a god or gods in order to get a good favor from the god. And, it gets kind of twisted up that way.
Right.
But if you look at the pattern behind that, they wouldn't give up their crappiest animal for that. They'd give up their prize.
It's true.
And
something very special.
It is. And energetically, that attitude of giving for something greater. Whoa.
Just gave up my coaster.
I did.
Sorry.
No worries. We may or may not delete that. But they're giving up something for something greater.
Exactly.
And that's that attitude of giving.
A renunciation of sorts.
It is. And it's a really powerful thing. So energetically, there's something really sound there. Now, I'm not saying everybody needs to go sacrifice their best goat, in order to, have a happier life. But what I am saying is that attitude behind it, there's something to that. And it has to do with giving up.
Right. Well, and we've put so much, when the word sacrifice is used, oftentimes the word slaughter or kill is part of it. We're not talking about that, but it is it's an offering of something, right? It's like, it's a surrender, it's renunciation. It's the idea, like you said, we're going to give in order to receive something higher.
That's right. And that really, what's the better word for that? Investment.
Investment is a good word.
You're investing something. However, there are some other ways to look at this. Now, this was a law in working with the law. We're not working only out of that book today. We're kind of departing from our beloved book here.
We do love that book.
Yeah, I do love the book. It's so great. And when I read this, I was like, wow, like this is really powerful. This is something we have to talk about. So the idea of investment, this is something that we learned as musicians.
True.
It's funny that this keeps coming back a lot for me these days of, what really the true skills that were being built throughout that period of our lives. And it's really profound. Think about the time, the effort, the energy, the money, all these different things that you invest into that in order to achieve a high degree of proficiency on your instrument.
Right. So much.
Just proficiency, let alone artistry.
Right. Proficiency. That's correct.
So you're literally investing your life into that.
Well, growing up as a musician, there was less time to play, less time to go out.
Right.
There were long drives to Pittsburgh and hour lesson and long, my mom really gave up a lot. My parents gave up money. It really is that sort of giving up, yet for something higher.
For something higher. And that's the smart thing. Now, many people just do it in the opposite direction. They give up the most valuable things in their lives for meaningless stuff. People give up their peace of mind so that they can have an argument on Facebook.
Oh, I know.
Right. And think about that.
Yeah.
You're investing, this is your life, man. You've got precious time and we'll invest it by just having arguments with people on Facebook about, who knows what.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's really interesting when you look at it. So it gets turned upside down in a lot of different ways. And it ties in directly to what I was talking to last week on my solo episode about value and where we find value and where we create value, but also like what we're willing to do to create that.
Right.
And so in the book, though, I will reference the book here. And he says, just in very simply, he says, first, let us note one simple fact. Something always has to be sacrificed for something else. Everything in life has its own price and is ever up for sale. Now, that can seem really limiting and really depressing.
Can seem a little harsh.
It can. But I think if you take the time to really look at it
and dissect it, right?
It's actually true.
Well, it's in a conversation. If you're wanting something from someone else, you're giving up time, energy, focus, voice to enroll them in that desire.
That's right.
You're giving up energy. You're giving up, you're giving something to receive.
That's right.
It's interesting. I mean, when I think about, okay, what about a farmer? Everything that farmer gives up in order to get the crops, get the food, get it on, from farm to table. It's an endless supply of energy and time and devotion.
It makes me think of, along the line of the musicians is, I love the show Chef's Table. I haven't been binge watching it, but I've been definitely chunking through the episodes of the seasons that they have. And these are chefs that are truly at the height of their art and craft. And it's truly exceptional to see what they put into it in order to achieve that.
Right.
They're giving up literally their lives in service of that. So it's like, well, what are you devoting your life to? And another way to look at this is to think, okay, what is it that you're giving it up for? So, okay, you want to have a great relationship and a happy family. There are certain behaviors that you will need to give up in order to have that.
I mean, you can't be out partying all night and
I mean, that might be okay in certain relationships.
I don't think so.
People are going to have an agreement about that.
Right.
In many relationships.
But let's just get to, but that's not, that doesn't build a healthy family.
I wouldn't think so. I'm not saying it's impossible, but not the easiest route to go. But in general, yeah, you're right. You'll need to give up some things in order to do that. If you want to have a really healthy, committed relationship, you're going to have to give up all, having, relations with a bunch of other people.
This sounds a little cheesy, but it takes me to Beyonce and Jay-Z because I got to go to that concert, which was amazing. Thanks to dear Beth. And then I was looking at an interview Jay-Z did with, who was that famous interview he's with? But he was talking about how he wasn't equipped to be married. He didn't have the emotional IQ to be married. So they went, to marriage counseling or wherever they go. They should come to us. But in any case, it was like, oh, he was giving up a certain lifestyle because he really does love Beyonce.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
It is.
But the recognition of I've got to give something up because I'm not designed for this.
Right.
Or I created a persona that's not designed for this, whatever it is.
That's right. And you bring up a really good point of where lots of times in our lives, we want to do things that the way that they told us to do, the way that we think we're supposed to do it. And it's like totally inauthentic to your nature. You got to give that up.
Right.
In order to be who you really are, is to give up all the things that they told you about the way that it's supposed to be and all that other stuff about how
limiting beliefs.
Right. And so that you can actually be who you are and do things the way that you were meant to do them.
Yeah. So it's really like excavating deep work, who you really are, what's most important, and making that decision of, okay, what's like you said, the investment to arrive there? What is it?
What is it going to take? And I've said this about virtually every significant endeavor in my life. I don't know if other people would agree with this, but this is what I think is like, man, if you told me going into it what it was going to take to actually be successful at being a musician, at being a really excellent yoga teacher, even at having my own business, at really mastering energy and being able to master healing in that way. Man, right out of the box, I don't know that I would have said yes to that if I really knew what it would take. I just knew it was right, and I would just keep going down that path because I thought, well, this is cool, and let's just keep going, But when you look back at everything that gets invested into that endeavor to really just achieve, like I said, a degree of proficiency, let alone excellence or perfection.
Right.
Man.
Right.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It really is a lot.
And look at the outcome though, the rewards.
The payoff.
The payoff is so great. And sometimes, there's that Steve Jobs quote, can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect looking back. Interesting, right?
Yeah, I never thought about that.
we invest so much, we sacrifice, we give up. And then when we look back though, my hope for everyone is that where you are now is worth, like you look back and go, it was so worth it.
Right.
And if not, then there's another conversation. There's some, like, we'll have some questions for all of you to just ask yourself to help realign that.
Right. And I think he was another one. I'm pretty sure that it was Steve Jobs who said that I have no interest in being the richest man in the graveyard.
Yeah. Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's something to be said because it wasn't just about money for him.
Right.
It wasn't just about business. It was about really doing something, making an impact. And for me, that's the same thing. It's just, you're right, connecting the dots. I never really thought about it that way, but connecting the dots step by step to see, where I am and what I'm doing right now. It's like, I wouldn't change a thing.
Right.
I really wouldn't. I really.
That's a good feeling.
It's an amazing feeling. I wish I could describe it to people. I can't, but I don't really have the words for it to say like, wow, like I've totally landed in the thing that I've been kind of feel like I've just been waiting my whole life for.
It's so cool.
It's a cool thing to have.
I love it. Now for others to land there, I want to regroup. And if you could share, we were talking about this before we dove on live mic, why in the spiritual world, this whole sacrifice, how it kind of got a weird label or weird nuance about it, I guess. So a weird flavor. Well,
I think it got turned upside down when it became just about like giving up stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It became, they talk about renunciation.
Mm-hmm. Giving up rather than an attitude.
That's right. Mm-hmm. So it became about like, okay, well, you're either supposed to like live poor, you're not supposed to have nice things, you're supposed to give up all the things that give you pleasure in life. And that there's a huge, huge miss in that because the real truth about renunciation or sacrifice for that matter, but in those teachings, renunciation, it's about the mental attachment to those things. It's not about the thing.
Exactly. It's the attitude. It's the attachment. It's the mental, emotional.
Right. And you know how attached you are to that thing by the level of agitation that you experience when something happens to said thing.
Right.
If you've got a really nice car and something happens to it and you're really, really, really upset, you have some significant attachment. Mm-hmm. If that stays with you for days or weeks, you have definitely significant attachment.
Right.
If you can really look at that and be like, ooh, that happened.
Yeah.
And really be objective about it, you're good to go. Have the nice car.
Talk a little bit, because I know we read that section about Jesus and Socrates, and we know Buddha left the palace and his family and trudged for how long until he sat under the tree and became self-realized.
Right. Well, he that's an interesting case in particular is because he went to the extremes.
He went way to the extreme and then he realized it wasn't about that.
Yeah. He lived in the extreme opulence of just ridiculous wealth and everything that he could ever dream of. He gave it all up thinking that's the thing. Like, that's going to be the thing. I'm going to give up all this stuff. And he went, and then he went to the other extreme, which is just like, he was barely eating, and
did weird yoga poses,
the bare minimum of, what would be needed for survival. And he's like, man, I'm no happier than I was before. This is still not the thing. So clearly that's not it. And then, they describe it as the middle path. But the middle path is not about like, just enough and everything like that. It's not about that at all. Because that's another kind of dangerous little trap of, just enough. Not
what the universe provides.
Right. And that'll put a cap on your income for one, but also your pleasure and enjoyment in life. That'll put a huge cap on it if it's always just like just enough. It's a program that sets your thermostat at just a really lukewarm kind of deal, which is not fun at all. So what he's talking about in the middle path, that middle path is the mental renunciation. It's about giving all those things up. And when you do that, you have true freedom in the world.
Right.
And it opens you up to the higher aspects of your personality.
It's sort of like what Swamiji would say at the Vedanta Academy, have what you want as long as you own it and it doesn't own you.
That's the simplest way to put the mental renunciation. Yeah.
So we see how through history, Jesus suffered, crucified.
Right. That had to suck.
Really so much. And then you had asked a very interesting question to me when we were talking before. And can you share that? Because I thought that was like,
What was it? I don't recall the
it
question.
was about, we know what Jesus gave up.
Oh, yes.
Mhm.
So, okay. So think about it like this. He gave up his life. All right.
The physical life.
The physical life. The Christians have, depending on which sect they're involved with, they make, quite a big deal about
This is a non-religious podcast.
Yeah. But depending on which one you're looking at, they make varying degrees of big deals about the actual suffering involved and get real deep into that.
Mhm.
All right. But at the end of the day, like, let's just assume he gave up his life. All right. Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
What did Judas give up?
So when we hear that, I mean, because this is, you and I geek out on spirituality and karma and all those things. Judas gave up, he added in probably lifetimes around the planet and gave up so much more because of that. Like you put it, just a few silver coins.
Yeah, his place in history, in the opportunity to serve a mission, that he actually did believe in. He just lost his way. Like, what did he give up?
Well, also when, we talk a lot about the soul mission, right? So when someone has a soul mission, the soul's going to do it. The soul is going to do what we're here to do according to what the human condition personality does. The limitations it puts on will determine how many loops around the planet, how many lifetimes you're going to go before the soul completes it. And so when you asked that question, it was like Judas just kind of, he gave up the fast track to the soul mission and the ultimate and just added in a whole bunch of interesting karma.
Right. And when you look at where some of those folks ended up, Peter and Paul in particular, with some of the things that happened to them, you might be thinking, all right, well, at least maybe he avoided that.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's fair, right? Because if it gets made about those things,
right,
those sacrifices, the pain and the suffering and all those sorts of things, well, you can really look at that. You can turn it upside down pretty quickly. But at the end of the day, it's really thinking about, well, what are you giving up? There's a really interesting parable. I won't go into the whole thing, but Swamiji's told us this one before, where there's a sage and, he has very little. He's, begging for alms and all that kind of stuff. And there's a king, and the king is like blown away. He's like, I can't believe like you gave up all this stuff, all the riches. I'm so amazed that you would give up all those things. And the sage is like, are you kidding me? You think I gave something up with all of these things. But look at what you're giving up with the way that you're living. You're giving up your peace, you're giving up your happiness, you're giving up your ability to really transcend this human experience, to stay stuck in the world. You look at what you're giving up. You're giving up eternity for all of the things.
Oh.
And I've given up the things and I've gained eternity.
Yeah.
So I'm good.
I'm good.
Right?
Check.
That's the sage is saying, and the king is like, whoa,
That's something to ponder there
something
tonight
to think about
over my scrumptious meal and
Well,
thousands of guests
feeding me grapes. I'll think about that. And that's really it. Like that's what it comes down to. But that again, it starts to create that weird thing with the stuff.
Yeah.
And making
the
it about
attachment.
the things.
Yeah. It's not about the things.
It's not about the things at all. It's really about our attitude towards the things, and looking at what we are investing in our lives.
That is so important. From every aspect, what kind of food are we investing in? What kind of friends are we investing in? Right. What kind of work on self, personal growth, spirituality are we investing in?
Yeah. Let's break a couple of those down. Health.
Yeah.
Right. What are some of the things that you might need to give up for really good health?
Chocolate cake, which sucks giving that up.
Well, maybe not altogether.
Not altogether.
Chocolate cake for breakfast, probably.
Yeah, never do that anyways. But
donuts,
yeah.
To a degree, that you have to, which is something that we'll dive into much more deeply, but you'll have to have the discipline to stay on track with with a proper diet.
Right.
A nourishing diet, whatever that might be for you. And then you're also going to have to, you're probably going to have to give up some time sitting on the couch. Maybe not all of it, but some of it, so that you can get your butt exercising.
Give up smoking, give up a lot of use of alcohol. You don't have to give it all up, but
yeah,
definitely temper it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There are things that people do every single day that are counterproductive for their health.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want better health, you have to give those things up.
Right.
Simple.
Now, when we look at attaining the personal discipline, whether it's to have something better in our lives, or many of our people are entrepreneurs out there listening, building businesses, that's when we want to look at what do we have to give up.
Yeah.
That I think the payoff can be just so rewarding.
Yeah. And that is the mark. That is one of the marks of truly successful people. They did a study on it too. But it's willing to sacrifice immediate gratification for a longer term gain.
Oh, so important.
They did this study too with kids when they were, I want to say they were like 5 years old. It was a really interesting study that they did. They would offer them, you can have like a marshmallow now, or you can have, 2 of them later.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids who took the marshmallow now were not as successful as the kids who took the marshmallow later.
My gosh.
It's true. I don't know if that was the exact study. I'll look it up.
Yeah.
I'll try to find it for the show notes,
Yeah.
but it was a really fascinating study.
Long term.
It speaks to that.
It's building that deep trench.
Yeah.
That deep, I call it the divine success track, willing to go deep and not wide.
Yeah. And staying consistent,
and
staying committed to it.
Yeah. Consistent, being committed and not being distracted by every shiny object, open loop, etc.
Yeah.
So it is a mission. It becomes a mission in life. And when that mission is about whether it's building a business to create an impact in the world, whether it's about a deeper relationship with family, partner, spouse, whatever, then I feel like there's more inspiration to sacrifice things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You bring up a really interesting one around business. And I think there's a few facets to this. First, I often hear people say, I really want to have my own business and do something that's, true to my heart. I can't quite leave my job.
Yeah.
Right? I can't leave my job. And because of the security, quote unquote, security of the job. So, but what I think is interesting about that is that security of that job is by and large one of the biggest lies that keeps people trapped, because you can get fired anytime.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime. If you have your own business and you are the master of your income, that is the greatest job security that you can ever have.
Yeah. It's getting to that point.
And
there's quite a bit that people have to give up.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
In order to really build that success and sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
It's no small feat. That's for sure.
Right.
And ask any business owner, it really does need to be a labor of love.
It is.
Yeah, otherwise,
and so much sacrifice at the front. Yeah.
In all sorts of different endeavors. This is one that I hear a lot of, is the people around us. Okay. Sometimes people have, really not helpful relationships or not helpful people in their life, but they want something better for themselves.
Even toxic people.
Yeah. Toxic people, they keep getting dragged back into the same drama or the same conversations, and it just really drags them down. Well, you're going to need to, at the very minimum, is mentally renounce those things. And very likely going to need to draw some very clear boundaries about how you interact, so that you can get yourself resilient enough that you can actually deal with it.
Right. And not take it on.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then bring in people that are as smarter. I always like being around smarter people than me.
Yeah, me too. That's one of my favorite things. I love really smart people who geek out on their stuff.
Yeah. So this is a lot to kind of ponder. And I know that we had a couple questions we wanted to present for people to think about.
Yeah.
So
I think this is important.
Yeah. To really get on that place of like, well, wait, what sacrifice? Am I not giving up? Am I giving up, et cetera? It really will start with what, and this is something you don't need to answer like right now, but write it down. What is truly most important in your life? And I ask our listeners to spend time with that, because like so often I know when we meet with new clients, potential clients ask, what do you want? Oftentimes they'll be like, oh, more money. I want to be less stressed. They really haven't gotten specific because our world is so noisy, and it's so noisy that we even lose touch with what is most important to us.
That's true.
So spend some time with that question.
Okay. I want to ask you a question about this for all the parents out there. So many parents I can imagine saying, and I've heard them say before, what's most important to you in your life? My kids.
And that might be.
That might be. But talk a little bit more about that.
Well, what I would say is it just the kids, or is it the way that you're relating to the kids? Is it healthy kids, happy kids? What, and that's kind of the second part of the second question, is dialing in. What does that leave you? If they're the most important in your life, what about you?
Right.
Because it's a little, again, upside down.
Turns it upside down.
Right? If we don't put the
Yeah.
oxygen mask on ourselves first, but by taking care of ourselves, it can be a way of feeding that most important to ourselves.
That's right.
And it really is an attitude. If it's most important that our kids are the most popular in school and have a new car, buzzer, this is not going to go well.
Kisma Smackdown.
Yeah. If it's most important that your kids understand who they are, they have a confidence, and they're connected, and they're not relying on what other kids like or don't like, man, you're doing great.
Yeah.
So it's getting underneath it, get specific about. And then the second question around that is, where are you not in alignment with that?
You brought up a really good point here is, if your kids, go with the kids example, if your kids are truly the most important thing,
Mm-hmm.
and you continue to neglect yourself, you're out of alignment.
Exactly.
You're turned upside down on the whole thing
Because you're not leading by example.
That's right.
You're not heading. Yeah, exactly.
And just speaking as a former kid myself,
and who loves cats right now, the father of cats.
I am. I can say for sure that they don't do what you say. They do what you do.
This is true.
They follow your example. And so
Exactly.
if you're constantly neglecting yourself,
Mm-hmm.
all in the name of this, really, really what is truly an upside down understanding of sacrifice,
Mm-hmm.
then that is exactly what they're going to take away from that.
Right.
So where are you, and it's about creating a true alignment, an alignment in higher truth.
Right. And so maybe the answer isn't kids for you, and that's okay. But what is truly most important in your life, and where are you out of alignment with creating that? In other words, where is there something that you're going to have to release? You're going to have to sacrifice. You're going to have to surrender is another word we could look at, or invest in.
Yeah. If you're complaining about your income or don't have the income that you want, and you're spending a bunch of time on Facebook arguing with people about politics,
Mm-hmm.
you're not in alignment.
Exactly. It's tricky, man.
Simple as that.
Right. So those are two good questions. Here's a third and final, which is pretty profound. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think this is.
You want to set it up?
This is a big one. Well,
Okay. Go for it.
Every day you wake up and you're on the precipice of investing a day of
Mhm.
your life. This might be your last day on the earth.
Mm.
Could be. You never know. So what is it that you are trading your
Mhm.
day for?
Mm-hmm. What are you trading the day for? Man, that's good. That puts so much in perspective when we want to stop, when we get caught up in drama or trauma, when we lose sight of our mission, whatever that mission is. It doesn't have to be a huge mission, but what is it for the day?
Yeah.
That's a good way to look at it. Every
really
single
is.
day.
Yeah. Every single day. It's something I don't do as consistently as I think is important.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever I do that,
Mm-hmm. It's a better day, isn't it?
it's a more focused day.
Yeah.
There's a fire to
Right.
it. There's a something there that says, yeah, like you get fired up about it. You
Right.
really make the most out of everything that we do,
Right.
because this is your life,
Yeah.
right? And when we look at it, it's such a whisper in time. It's such a tiny little point in time to do what we're here to do in this leg of the journey.
Right.
And I think to waste it on things that don't matter,
Yeah.
waste it in confusion, waste it doing what everybody else says you're supposed to be doing without really paying attention to what's going on inside of you, I think that's a mistake.
Mm.
And I
It
think
won't be as fulfilling.
it won't be at all.
Yeah.
And I think
too, this exercise allows people to refocus, regroup, take a breath of confidence and certainty that you can get through it and elevate,
yeah,
because you've been given this precious gift of life. So, give up the worry, give up the anxiety, stay on point, face forward, take that consistent action.
yeah,
And it might mean you give up some things that are so inconsequential, but again, the end result is amazing.
It really is.
Yeah.
So
Love
fun
it.
topic. Very,
Yeah.
very, very interesting topic.
Would
And
love to hear what y'all come up with some of these questions and exercise. I think it's a great thing to do. Please either find us on Facebook and just put a post there, listen to the podcast, and this is what I came up with, or shoot us an email, info@sourcemovement.com. Most importantly, this is for you.
peace.
Namaste. Hey, thanks for jamming with us today. And if you enjoy Illumination Podcast, please go ahead and share it with someone you love. Give us a rating, review, download our podcast. And remember, you can find us at illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. Talk to you soon. Namaste.